I feel like an outsider.
I moved to the United States when I was 13, and I've always felt like, because my background is so profoundly distinct, I moved from Lebanon. Because I moved during my preteens, it felt very hard to find someone who sees things like I do, like the same perspective. I got bullied my second week here in school, and perhaps like maybe that person's intention weren't as harmful as I thought. Maybe they were trying to be silly with their friends, now that I think about it. But I do think to a certain extent that did traumatize me in my educational journey and my school journey and making friends, which is why I kind of became very quiet. I became very self-reserved because I just did not want to interact with people in fear that I would get retaliated against for who I simply was. And that took a lot of years to just accept who I am. And that took almost 5 years. I didn't make friends until I was in college. By the time I accepted who I was and accepted that, hey, regardless if you're quirky or if you're weird or how you're perceived, it's a beautiful thing because your background is different, and a lot of people don't understand that.
I'm from Middle East too. I was born and raised in Iran and came here a month before my 18th birthday. But the reason why I disagree, and not as strongly disagree with this prompt, is because in the United States, I feel completely belong to this place. But the prompt says no matter wherever I go, and I believe there are places in the world you can go where you feel like an outsider. But in the United States, because of how much of a great country it is and how diverse it is, it's very hard to feel like an outsider.
I think I somewhat disagree as well, because even though culturally we can be different, but we can still feel like we belong in this country, whether it's America or any other country. I came from Indonesia originally, and when I first came here, I feel like I'm a bit of an outsider, but I take the time to actually learn of how people do things around here. Just kind of like how if a lot of people were to come to Indonesia, they would need to learn the culture and assimilate themselves. So I somewhat disagree that I don't feel like I'm an outsider. I could feel a little bit different at times just because of just things that I like and interests and just what we came from. I think everybody here is very different, but ultimately speaking, you can still feel belonging to somewhere, but you're just not an outsider on that side. So when I first came to the United States, I felt like there's a lot of new changes happening. And when there's so many new changes, I felt like I need to adapt to be able to just fit it. And one of those things would be the language. I had a heavy accent, didn't know a lot of words. I still sometimes question some words that I didn't know in my vocabulary, but at the time I felt very, very man, why do people don't understand me? But nowadays, what I take away from that experience, okay, it's not that they don't understand who I am. I'm just not able to communicate enough to those people. So I need to be better. I need to take accountability of learning how to communicate better with those people.
I'm at strongly agree because I have 2 masters, first generation college student, I'm Filipino American, and when I walk into the room, people make tons of assumptions about me. For many years, I felt like a second-class citizen because that's how I was being treated. My mom used to go to Hollywood Park, Santa Anita Park. She loved to gamble, and that's where she would get some of my clothes and my lunch bag. And I would be in old Beverly Hills where everyone was so rich. And I remember this critical moment where I walked into the elementary school and it was like the parting of the sea. Everyone was just like, what is she wearing? Because my mom, single parent, 5 kids, she was just trying to make it work, right? So there's still that feeling of trying to hide poverty or trying to hide the immigrant experience. And now it's more no, there's that ingenuity and creativity and resourcefulness and resilience that was actually more representative of that moment, that my mom was I'm gonna put her lunch in a lunchbox and she is gonna go to school with a raincoat and I'm gonna get it for free. As a small kid, you get this messaging that you're not good enough or there's something wrong with you. So that's why I'm in education. That's why I'm in elementary schools, because I really want to advocate for the children and give them the language that you're beautiful, you're wonderful, and keep shining bright. And your culture that you have at home, bring it with you.
I belong to 8 different intersections. I'm a woman, I'm queer, I'm Indian, I'm British, I'm an immigrant, I'm college educated, I'm a business owner. I belong to a lot of different intersections. So because of that, I relate to so many different groups of people. There is like a deep little bit of feeling like an outsider, but I also feel very much so an insider because I understand so many groups of people.
The reason why I strongly disagree is that as much as I fit into those spaces, the way that I'm treated by other people is still as an outsider because I'm Kenyan, so yeah, in some spaces I'm Black, but even in the spaces where there's Black people, I'm African. And then when I go to African spaces, most Africans here are from West Africa, so I'm not West African. And so in those spaces, I'm Kenyan. So just feeling like I belong somewhere, I don't feel that. I feel like this just stems from my childhood. I've always had to prove that I'm good enough or do extra work to prove that I'm good enough. So anytime I feel like people are questioning whether I belong in a certain space, I feel like it's my responsibility to make them see why I belong there.
There's a lot of, pressure and responsibility on the newcomers to feel attached to this place too. Like, you shouldn't completely expect people who were here before you to accept you. You also have to put in the effort to assimilate to United States and its values and its laws, and people have to make that effort instead of like completely expecting others to accommodate to your needs and feelings.
Why do you think that people should assimilate?
I escaped my own country to feel safe from the Islamic Republic, so why come to another place that feels similar to it?
Don't you think it's also nice to bring your specific culture
the
to
good
where
parts
you
of
moved
it,
to?
yeah. I feel like, that's the beauty of the United States. People are able to bring the good stuff from their background and leave the bad stuff behind.
I believe in the American dream.
I think the American dream is still alive today because I think America still represents that freedom. When I came here to the US, very, very low income, we literally struggled to pay our bills every single month. I remember particularly in one story where I was in school and they told me to start doing my homework at school, and I was like, why? Well, it's because my mom told me like we might not be able to have lights tonight. So that was like one of the most impactful experiences. And at that point I was like, why did I leave this nice life that I used to have to go to the US? And I didn't understand it at the time. I made a determination to be able to go to college, figure out a way to do it, build a business eventually in college. So I think when you define American dream as the pursuit of that freedom of opportunities, I think the American dream is still alive today.
I think the American dream is a facade. There's states in America where they can't even afford to keep the lights on in schools. There's full states that they don't even have drinking water. I think people will see America as this obviously there's a lot of opportunity in America compared to specific countries, but I believe there is a lot of facade that goes into that because people come to America thinking it's gonna be this beautiful thing. America was built on the back of immigrants, and I think being able to live the American dream is a really big privilege catered probably towards white people, but benefiting from immigrants.
Well, you mentioned white people. I'm not white, but I feel very much close to the American dream, and I love how in this country you have the opportunity, as long as you have the capability to put in the effort, you have the opportunity to get wherever you want. But some people like to blame everything else, blame the system, blame the country, that that the American dream is dead. But no, to me it's very much alive, and it's definitely beats being scared for my own life in a third world country under Islamic Republic for sharing my views. So I definitely believe in it, and I believe every day I live, I'm getting closer to it.
When I think of the American dream, I think about how life was 20, 30 years ago, where one household income was enough to feed all. That dream on its own has been demolished. Back home, if anyone knew that you were moving to the United States, it was such a huge deal because it is land of opportunity. You can become anything you want. It's an easy life, I don't have to stress as much as I did back home. But when I moved here, over the years, I've kind of noticed that I pursued so much ambition that I started to lose my happiness. And it kind of created that path of pessimism. And now I think instead of chasing ambition, I'm learning to chase my purpose.
When I define an American dream, I think it is the freedom of access and opportunity. I think the problem is a lot of people don't know that the dream has shifted, or the dream has, I guess, like, change over time. You know, like the dream that was in the 50s is not how the dream was in 2025, but doesn't mean that it is dead. It means that it just evolved, just like how every country evolves their whole population.
I miss the country I left.
I don't miss that much my country. Sometimes I don't feel safe there, public transportation. But I do miss my family. That's probably the only thing that I miss, my family, but not really the country. Well, I'm from Panama, and a few years ago I was in a horrible accident, and I feel like if that would have happened in America, you would be more safe. There's seat belts here everywhere for everyone, and the government helps you with an accident when you cannot work for a long time. And in Panama, it wasn't like that. Almost nobody got any money, and people were hurt and passed away. So I just don't miss that at all. Yeah, I do feel guilty sometimes that I left. When they passed away, that my dad wasn't there. Thank God I was there with my mother, though. But that was really the hardest part, leaving my family.
The reason why I moved, I mean, to some extent, I mean, yeah, sure, I miss the family that I have over there. I have tons of family back in Iran. At the same time, I'm happy being here. You know, I don't miss being under that Islamic government.
That's why I miss my country, because it wasn't really an extreme situation back home that made me come here. It was the fact that I had specific dreams that I couldn't fulfill. So I didn't leave my country because I don't like being there or I hate it. I actually love it so much. I love to go back there, and my dream is for me to achieve like very big things here in America so I can put my country on the global stage.
More than anything, I miss the sense of community. I think when you're in a country where a lot of people are very similar, there's a very strong sense of community. Through thick and thin, people are there for you. And I think when I moved to the United States, due to the diversity, I felt like there was a lack of community. It felt very lonely. And I understand why we don't have that strong community here, because we're so diverse, we're all very different. But I do miss that aspect.
I felt really, really close to community when I lived in England, and then I moved to San Diego, and I went to public high school there, and everybody was white, and it was really, really weird for me, and I really missed home. It's taken me 11 years, but I finally kind of have a sense of community now, but I didn't have that for most of my time in America. Everywhere I go, still to this day, it's been 11 years, the first thing people tend to ask me is, where are you from? I'll say certain words like water or something like that, and people repeat it and they laugh, and I just like sit there and I wait for them to stop laughing so I can continue on with the conversation. But at the beginning, yeah, I tried to get rid of my accent a little bit so I didn't have to deal with all of that annoyance. It makes me feel like a little bit dehumanized, and I'm like this cartoon character or something for people to play with. I remember I took like speech and debate in high school in America, and I would be debating these great topics, and by the end of my speech everyone was like, oh my god, your accent. I just spoke all about like feminism or human rights campaigns, and nobody wanted to discuss what I just talked about. They wanted to just talk about my accent. I think at this point in my life, I've finally realized I am enough, and what even is enough at the end of the day. And I always was enough. When I moved to America when I was 16, I was enough. When I was a child, I was enough. So it's just that consistent reinforcement that you're always enough, and nothing can take away from that sentiment.
I've hidden parts of my culture to avoid judgment.
My LinkedIn doesn't have my last name. It just has like the initial, and my resumes everything. And then also when I'm speaking to different people, my accent changes. As much as I know I can never truly sound American, I try as hard as possible to sound American.
When I first moved here, I had a very heavy accent. I got rid of it down the line. I don't know how, but I still have it. It only comes out when I'm tired. But when I first moved here, I got made fun of my accent for it, right? But that didn't make me want to change my accent. I was like, screw it, I'm gonna embrace it.
Don't you think that's part of kind of hiding your culture?
I don't see it as part of like hiding your identity or your culture to try to like, speak with clarity and like work on your accent to not to be so obvious so others can understand you easier.
I think it's the purpose of connecting. Right. I think when you're in a new environment, or even, I've been in America for about 13 years, I think being able to understand the other person's perspective as well. Not everybody is taught on culture for every single country of the world.
The only way I will hide parts of myself is for safety, and that's it. Like I will hide about being like gay in certain situations where I'm going to be really unsafe. I'm going to hide about being Muslim in certain situations where it's really unsafe. But if I feel safe, then I'm going to share.
I don't really hide myself from being. I tell everybody that I'm from Panama wherever I go. Like I go a lot of Europe and France, and I just tell everybody, even though my passport is American now, but I still always say I'm Panamanian and I speak Spanish. And I feel people are very nice wherever I go.
I just wanted to share that when I was little, my mom spoke to me in Tagalog, but none of the cousins were spoken to in Tagalog. I was the only one because the other families wanted their children to assimilate and succeed in the US culture, whereas my mom wanted to preserve it. So I would be in the grocery store and she would be speaking to me in Tagalog, and I would speak to her in perfect English because I was ashamed of it. And then when I got older, I realized what she was doing.
I'm proud of the life I've built here.
I'm not where I want to be, obviously, but I feel like given everything that I have to be up against coming to America, I'm proud of where I am now. I'm proud to even be here still, because sometimes I just want to go back home.
I remember actively when I moved here, I was just in shock because what do you mean everyone has the opportunity to go to college, right? That opportunity is so scarce back home, where that on its own felt like once I graduated with my bachelor's degree in business, I felt like I was on top of the world.
I think for a long time I was like grappling with my identity. So that's actually what I'm most proud of. It's not the financial, it's just that I have a 12-year-old that's watching me every day, and so I think it's really important for her to see like a strong Pinay queer that's like doing it every day, and also with the mindset of like, how can I help other people?
I think my greatest hope is just to continue building a life that is authentic to myself and not let anybody tell me that because of my identities that I'm not enough.
Group hug?
That's an easy one.
That was awesome. This is a pleasure, guys.
Really good.
I learned so much from every single one of you.